want nobody, and I don't want nobody. You got that right.
All right, our next guest, you can follow him on the Twitter at JLP Talk. See, I'm not revealing yet because that's kind of like people who don't know him yet. They hear that and they say, what is that? Then if I say his next blog is JesseLeePeterson.com. Also, RebuildingTheMan.com. He's a council activist, commentator. He writes for WorldNet Daily. Mr. Peterson, thank you for being here, sir.
I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So first off, let me ask, I mean, this is something obviously you've kind of made the rounds. You've declared you're celebrating July White History Month. Do I have that correct?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct. July is White History Month for several reasons. Number one, July just feels white. You know, you can feel it in the air. It's everywhere.
What? What does that mean? What does that mean? I would think like May, because you have the cherry blossoms. Those are very white.
Well, you have the 4th of July. Mm-hmm. You have vacation time. It's just a time to really go and hang out with family members. And it's a time to reflect. And because it's the birthday of the country, it's a time to reflect on this country and how far we have come, what whites have done to make America great. And so it's like an appreciation month.
Okay.
And another reason that I started it is because we have Black history, we have homosexual history, we have Mexican history, we have Japanese, we have women history.
Yeah.
Everybody history but white Americans. And as you know, if it wasn't for white America, there would be no America.
Right.
And so, and every time you speak of white history, it's in such a negative, degrading kind of a way.
Well, I understand why. To be fair, it's because, you know, white power has obviously been taken over by white supremacists, and so that was the nomenclature they decided to use, and so people get a little bit gun-shy about it. But your point is not lost on me with everything else, but let me ask you this. I mean, 4th of July, America, you know, it's not only white people have contributed to America, including obviously Black Americans, people of all stripes and colors. Why, and I am obviously a conservative Christian straight white male, why do you think of those things as kind of exclusive to white America?
Well, they're not exclusive. It's because of white Americans that we are able to celebrate the 4th of July. And so I really want to bring back the reality of white Americans because they have been under attack for so long now. It is it's almost against the law to be a white, straight, conservative Christian male. You are hated by everybody and their mama, and it's just so amazing to me that if it wasn't for white people, there would be no America.
Yeah.
And so they're allowing the people of color to come in, and even some that are born here. And when they get here, rather than becoming Americans, rather than showing their appreciation, they turn on the very people who made it possible for them to be here. And my other concern, too, Stephen, is that these people of color are going to eventually, if we go down this road, continue down this road, they're going to take over the government. And if they take over the government, we're going to see happening in America what is happening in South Africa right now.
Well, they kind of did take over. They had office number 1 with, you know, a black president, and it wasn't exactly it wasn't a great 8 years, but it wasn't South Africa. So, you know, thank God for that. Let me ask you this, because I know you've been, and I appreciate that you're outspoken against identity politics from the left, you know, and you talked about how you used to be a Democrat and you left that life behind you. I know a lot of black conservatives use the term sort of leaving the plantation. But yeah. Doing this, isn't this kind of playing into their hand, doing identity politics on the other side of the coin? Don't we just want everyone to be celebratory of America, regardless of race?
We do, and a lot of people are waking up again. They're waking up now because of White History Month. They're like coming out of this darkness, this sleep that most people are in, like, oh yeah, that's really nice. I remember I remember America now. I remember how we got started. I remember they're overcoming the fear of being white. The reality is white people are not allowed to be white. Everybody else is allowed to do what they want, and white Americans are not allowed to be themselves. They can't have a white club at these universities around the country. They're not allowed to disagree with people of color. They are not allowed to do. When Obama was there, the fallen Messiah, the worst president that this country has ever experienced was there. White Americans were not allowed to disagree with him.
Yeah.
If you did, you were called racist.
Well,
And
now
so
then that became sexist overnight when Hillary Clinton ran for president, right? Everyone went from being racist to sexist. But I wouldn't say fallen messiah because I wouldn't think that Barack Obama was a messiah to begin with. Certainly, he shouldn't have been. We both agree with that. So I wouldn't even give him that much credit. I would just say fallen that guy. I don't want to give him. I don't want to put him up on the pedestal to take him off. I just don't want to put him there to begin with. I understand.
Well, the reason I call him the fallen messiah because I interviewed over 200 or so black preachers during the when Barack Obama first ran back in 2008.
Yeah.
And they were calling him. They were like, "Oh, he's sent by Jesus. God sent Obama." And I'm like, "There's no way God would send the son of Satan to run the country."
Yeah.
Because Obama, I said to them, Obama is Jeremiah Wright Jr., Louis Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson, the NAACP, Al Sharpton, and all those guys wrapped up in one. And if he is elected, this country will live to regret that. And so they later found out that he really wasn't sent by God, but he was sent by Satan. So that's why I call him the fallen Messiah.
Right. Now, do you think ever you might run into some murky, because I know you're a controversial figure, might run into sort of blurring the lines, because I know you're using the term son of Satan. I know you're using this, you don't literally think that Satan mated with someone and had Barack Obama, but you mean that he comes from an evil ideology. But do you think that sometimes when you take something that's very literal, meaning priests did literally say Obama was sent by God, and we totally agree that's completely off the beaten path. But then if you take something that's literal from them and then apply a figurative son of Satan, it kind of murkies the waters, and then the conversation becomes to your term, which wasn't meant as they took, and then you just get off the rails. You ever get concerned about that?
Well, what I've come to realize is that our battle is a spiritual battle.
Right.
It's a warfare between good and evil. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spirits and principalities of wickedness in high places. We are a spirit. And so there are those folks who are sons and daughters of God, so they're of him. And there are those who are sons and daughters of evil, the prince of darkness, which is Satan, and they're of him. And I call them the children of the lie. People like the liberal media, the Democratic Party, the never-Trumpers, the Rhino Republicans, they are children of the lie. And so we do have this battle going on. It's not a physical battle. It has nothing to do with racism, sexism, homophobism, Islamophobism. It's either right or wrong or good or evil. And so what I'm trying to do is to get the people who are on the side of good to change the language. We can't communicate in the same manner that the children of the lie communicate, because if we do, we're never going to overcome the lie with the truth. Yeah. And so the truth is, we are fighting against people who are on the side of evil, and Obama was one of those people. Yeah,
well, here's the thing. I think we agree on most things, certainly as it relates to Barack Obama. The guy who voted present when it came to saving babies that were surviving botched abortions in Illinois and being thrown into waste paper bins is not someone who is sent of the God that I serve or you serve. That being said, and we both agree that's evil, and Planned Parenthood is evil, and the current DNC agenda, I believe, is absolutely evil. But I wouldn't put necessarily Ted Cruz supporters, never-Trumpers, in the same camp as the Planned Parenthood people, as you just kind of did. I think it's important to delineate. I don't think that Ben Shapiro, who's not necessarily a never-Trumper, or even, I forgot the guy's name. Anyway, so take the people from NRO. I wouldn't put them in the same boat as Nancy Pelosi. Don't we think that that's as important to delineate?
I absolutely agree. And I wasn't thinking of Ted Cruz or Ben. I know Ben. Ben is a good friend. As a matter of fact, Ben owed me a lunch.
Okay.
Because we had a bet that he said that Trump would lose, and I said he would win during the primary. So he owed me a lunch. Ben is a good guy.
Just make sure it's not on Saturday. You won't be getting that lunch on Saturday. He shuts everything off.
False promises.
Yeah.
That's right. So I'm thinking of those people who are fighting against the great white hope, President Trump, tried to deliberately keep him back. The president has put the country first. It's apparent that he's about putting the country first. Mm-hmm. But yet there are those who are the never-Trumpers who are, I guess they're just kind of out there, and they're working overtime trying to undermine what the president is doing. And those are the people that I'm referring to.
Okay, all right. I'm glad that we've clarified. And even then, I would disagree in the sense that even if they don't like President Trump, I would certainly separate them from, let's say, Christian conservatives who don't like Trump's demeanor versus liberals who want to actively kill babies in the womb.
Absolutely.
And I know you've talked too a lot about obviously sort of this ties into the straight white male issue, but fathers and just the idea of masculinity in general. We talk about that in the show, and that's the your website is. Sorry, I got dry there. Rebuildingtheman.com. We don't have a ton of time, but fill people in on that and where you line up and why you think it's important.
For the last 28 years, I started an organization called BOND, the Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny. And what we are doing is rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. There is an order to life, and that order is God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children. It's a spiritual order. And when I was growing up, we understood that order and lived it to the best of our ability. But that order has switched now because so many children are born out of wedlock, especially in the black community. To black women who are born in this country, 77% of the children are born out of wedlock, according to the Washington Examiner. But what's happening, Stephen, in the family, when you don't have that father there, the mother is angry because it's difficult for mothers to raise children on their own, boys and girls. And so it takes the father and the mother. And so what happens is the mother is angry and she's imposing that anger on her children. And so eventually the kids start to resent the mother because they can't handle that pressure. They become angry.
Something important to note, by the way, single mothers are actually more likely to be statistically abusive than single father households. A lot of people don't know that, both emotionally and physically. Karen Strawn was on the show and talked about that. And, single parent households are not good on either direction.
That's right. And so what happens, though, when the kids become angry at the mother, they become like her. They take on her identity because you become like whomever you're angry at. If you notice, the average black man, not all, but most, act like a woman. He think, feel, and act like a woman. He's very angry. And that is because he lost his identity and took on and became like the woman that he hated, and that's his mother. And so when they go out into the world or when they're dealing with other human beings, they deal with it the way a woman would deal with it and not logical the way a man would deal with it. And so what we're doing is showing them how to overcome that by going to their mothers and forgiving the mothers for what they have done to them, because a lot of mothers don't realize what they're doing or they can't help it.
Right.
And so when you go to your mother and forgive her, then God will forgive you. And he would take the spirit or the identity of your mother away from you and give you back yourself, which is not of the feminine spirit, but of the masculine identity, right? And now you can operate and love in the right way because that order is back.
I think that's a good way to leave it. There are some things there that I think I mostly agree with and some things that I don't, but I do think it's important that people understand the complementarianism, the idea that Jesus was really the first feminist, not as we know now, but in the sense of love your wives, be good to your wives. And a big part of being a man is owning your actions, is being honest, being straightforward, and yes, loving and treating your wives with tenderness and care. And by the way, that means staying with your wife. So, hey, look, it's rebuildingtheman.com. And maybe you could have picked June for White History Month because Father's Day is in there. There's more intersect. You brought it up. I didn't.
That's homosexual month. You can't have that month. It's already taken.
Well, but that doesn't make sense. Father's Day and the Gay Pride Month. There's a whole lot of... I'm so lost. That is JesseLeePeterson.com and rebuildingtheman.com. Thank you so much for taking the time, sir. I wish you the best.
I appreciate you having me on. God bless you.
We're going to wrap this up after this.